Hey guys, this is James.
And this is Denny from TeaDB, bringing you guys episode 221.
Indeed. So what do we have here, Denny?
We got some dank poo.
That's right.
As we promised last episode. We do. And this was sent in to us by whom?
By Sue. Who is a woman that lives out in Malaysia. So thank you, Sue. And so I actually don't know that much about this tea. This is a Hong Kong traditional tea. Mm-hmm. So traditionally stored. When I asked her about it, she asked me how old I was. I told her I was 30, and she said that this tea was almost as old as me. So presumably that means it's somewhere 20x years old is probably what I would
pretty fair. And it looks like it's been almost powdered. It has sort of like a light film on it.
Yep. So for those of you that like Pu'erh as a fermented product, this has been fermented.
So I'm getting off of the dry leaf. I'm getting that sort of
pencil shavings.
No, that sort of like tomato vine thing,
okay.
A little bit, and then pickles. Okay. Straight up pickles. Like, not like sweet pickles, but like those like dill pickles that look way too yellow, you know?
Interesting.
Mm.
Well, let's also smell the leaf here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's going to be quite different.
So, one thing with these traditionally stored teas is it can often just take a bit to get through the storage of the tea. So, I'm going to try to steep this at least 5 times, just so we can make sure we get to some of the good stuff. Yeah. Definitely gave that a rinse just there. I think another good thing to do is sort of to break this tea up. You could see Denny was looking at the tea in there, and it's sort of broken up into a really loose form, enough that you asked if it was actually just like mouth chop.
If it was just,
and I wasn't sure, but I found a slightly compressed piece in there, so I do believe it was compressed at some point. Mm-hmm. But that's just a good way to air it out, clean up the brew a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It will affect the brewing though, so for you folks out there who do get stuff that has been a cake that's been departiculated or matcha, it will brew a lot more quickly. This smells incredible. Hard to place the smell. Look at how red it is.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because these older teas just end up getting to that sort of red phase at some point for the most part, as opposed to sort of a yellow orange.
Yep.
Look at all the oil on the top too.
Yep. And tea can even get darker than this for certain Hong Kong stored Pu'erhs for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Try not to burn myself to death.
Still pretty hot.
And light. It's not super strong yet. It has a nice sweetness though. It really, when it gets this old, those intense peaty, earthy, gasoline-y flavors really do disappear. And it's really smooth. Those intense, earthy, whiskey, smoky flavors just aren't in the cup here as much at all.
And I mean, people will wonder why like Pu'erh used to be processed in a way that was so strong or nasty early on. And I mean, part of it is just because like this is the way that Pu'erh's traditionally been stored, and the way that it's traditionally been stored gets rid of a lot of those characteristics. So softens them out quickly and smooths it out.
This is a complex tea. It has a lot of sweetness in it. The sweetness is hard to place. It's saccharine. It's not associating with a strong flavor. It just is sweet.
Very soft.
Yeah, coming through already.
I get some of those creamier, maybe vanilla creamy notes to this as well.
I'm getting more in the spectrum of raw to ripe. I feel like I'm experiencing more ripe flavors right now.
Interesting.
Really nice, lingering aftertaste, sweet. In comparison to the last ripe that we just had that was, nice and old, 10 years old. This isn't as oaty, it's not as roasted, it's not as nutty.
Yeah, it's a little bit lower noted, like if we're talking on sort of like a musical spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Look at the oil on it still. And this is going to brew out for quite some time, so this is one of those teas that I think you take a long time to session and enjoy, but of course it's TeaDB, so we're just going to pound it, chug it.
YOLO.
We got the things we do for you, people.
And for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers. Deeper. Texturally getting a little bit thicker, but not too much.
You just had mentioned that you weren't getting much oatiness. All of a sudden I get a little bit of that sort of like oaty grainness to the tea. Not as much as the previous tea, but...
I can see it. Yeah, this is performing more like a ripe, and again, in a good way. I wonder if are you tasting any of the storage? I'm really not that much.
I know, it's very clean.
Yeah.
And I should note that I have tinned this tea probably pretty much since I got it. So probably 4 months by now. It's been a bit. So that should theoretically help to sort of clear out.
Yeah, and I think, James, when you say tin, this is technically a tin, even though it's ceramic. But one of the key parts of that is that you don't really have a super airtight seal.
Yeah.
And so you're enabling any of the microbes and any of the sort of fermentation process going on in here to aerate a lot more than it would if it were, one, clumped together into a rock solid cake, or two, closed together in a warehouse with a bunch of other cakes around it, or three, just in a Ziploc bag. Oh my God, that color.
Yeah, and so it's getting darker and darker. As I said, this tea takes a bit to just get going, just as a product of what it is. And behind me, on my tea shelf, you guys can see there are a number of these tins. All of those teas are sort of like teas that have been stored in this specific way. So teas that are older, that have experienced humid storage at some point, that can just benefit from the sort of airing out. So, steep number 3, the darkest brew yet.
Indeed. It's really resembling in the cup a ripe in terms of what it's looking like at this point. Really that deep auburn, brown, red.
Yes, indeed.
Cheers. Wow. Leathery. Man, this tastes like being a cowboy or something. I guess for that, what that means for me is like
maybe a Cantonese cowboy.
Yeah, like it's not smoky. It's a little grassy, dry grass, and not verdant. So, but that sort of dry grass hay. But not too. This is hard. This is all I know is it's delicious. This is hard to place for me, but it's really yummy.
Yeah.
Tastes like being a cowboy. Says the guy that lives in Seattle. What the hell am I talking about?
Because we know exactly. It's super soft, super smooth. It sort of has this really nice silky texture to it that I'm getting in some of these. Very clean, all things considered. Like, I feel like it didn't take all that long to get through some of the storage taste of this tea.
I'm now smelling pencil shavings, so it's...
I actually had a revelation the other day. I was drinking some tea, I'm like, oh my God, I understand what Denny's been talking about this whole time. Pencil shavings, and so...
It's that sort of like graphene,
sort of dry...
not quite sharp, but yeah, it's a flavor profile, that's for sure.
And it's not a negative
flavor.
descriptor
No,
at all.
not at all. It's weird, but it's pleasant. It's like in the same way that walking through pine trees is intense and woody and fresh. You can enjoy it in the same way. So, and this tea continues to just be dark and oily.
Right.
It's not the most thick and viscous tea by any means.
Yeah, and I'm going to push this a little bit. Let's see what we can get out of it.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's so soft and so smooth right now that I'm kind of curious what will happen. Give this tea a little bit of a stress test.
Indeed. And getting some poo burps, which is common. So for you poo heads who are just getting started, it's part of the
experience.
It's part of the experience. So rejoice the poo burps. This tea is really yummy so far. I'm enjoying it a lot. And in terms of the brewing vessel, James, and just parameters and stuff for folks out there who are interested, what do we got going on?
Yeah, so this is the teapot that I usually use for my traditionally stored Pu'erhs.
Smaller.
Retains heat, smaller than the previous vessel. Retains heat well. It pours a little bit slower than something like a Gaiwan theoretically could, but it pours faster than the vessel that I use for Right Pu'erh that we used for the previous show.
And the small vessel, one reason to use a small vessel is that you're just making tea for yourself. Another is that when you have some really nice stuff, you want to brew it correctly, and it's harder to brew correctly if you want to only just make a small amount of it because it's precious to you to brew in a large Gaiwan. So using something that's smaller, don't go out there and break the bank to get something that's having a teapot for each 10 milliliter increment unless you want to.
Yeah.
Small vessel is working great for this.
Yep. And tea like this really does benefit from lots of heat, so make sure you're reheating your water.
Yeah.
This clay probably helps a bit compared to something like a Gaiwan, just to keep that super hot. So I definitely recommend, if you are a fan of traditionally stored teas, to think about a vessel if it is within your budget. If not, Gaiwan is fine-ish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, so what steeping is this? This is the fourth.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. I'm tasting a bit more of that viney, verdant tomato vine flavor that I was smelling in the loose leaf now.
Definitely very earthy. Each steep, like we have not even bothered to comment on that to some extent.
Exactly.
It's sort of like a given with some of these teas.
And in contrast to a Wui oolong, which has an earthiness that's sort of like a mineral-y earthiness, it's kind of like the rock taste. This is earthy in sort of a like vegetable garden soil earthy kind of a way.
Yeah. Dark and creamy too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm loving how the flavors are really just lasting in between steeps and then changing the footage a little bit. I was still just sort of sitting and tasting and enjoying this brew. So for you folks out there who if you really do want to take a minute and be attentive, this is a tea that's going to give you a long, wonderful session. So
yeah.
I don't know if this would pass the mom test though.
Depends on the mom, but I suspect it's not the safest bet if you're looking to convert someone to tea or to Pu'erh.
Exactly. This is not an intro tea per se. Even though I think the flavors are very palatable and welcoming, it's sort of divergent from a classic sweet profile or smoky profile that people might be interested in.
Right. Unlike Wui teas, which would actually be very good crossover teas. Mm-hmm. What would be sort of like the Western equivalent, maybe for those people out there who have never tried a sort of tea of this sort of profile? Like, what's the closest equivalent we can think of that someone may have had? It's a tough one. I don't personally have an answer either. Some sort of alcohol? No, not really, right?
I don't know. These flavors just aren't very common. I mean, it's kind of a cool treat that we get to drink a beverage that tastes sort of like tomato vines. So, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
What's
some
it
of the
comparable to?
smokier raw pours would be like, I guess, whiskeys or something like that.
Yeah, but
this is nothing like those smokier raw pours. So
no, let's drink and think about it.
yeah, so this is the steep that we pushed a little bit.
Cheers.
Bit richer.
Yeah, just bolder, more intense. This is really wonderful, I must say. I'm really enjoying this. It's like a very demanding flavor profile. It really makes you just sort of sit there with it. But it's pleasant. It's balanced. There's not as much crispness and freshness, I'd say. It's kind of
None.
more like a,
There's zero.
I'd say it's more of like a old soul kind of a tea, but in a good way. And I think just from pushing it, I just felt like it was a little bit more intense, but not.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it changed. I mean, we were talking in the previous episode about how much that tea changed depending on how you brewed it. This tea seems like it's going to keep with that general profile and just maybe get a little bit stronger, weaker. And in fact, this tea gave no pushback. There was no astringency, no bitterness at all for pushing it. So,
testament to the age.
So definitely one that could reward a heavier hand. Definitely not one that you should be brewing at green tea temperatures. I can tell you that much.
No.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Let's do one more at least.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay.
You have enough water?
Yeah. We'll find out.
We will find out.
Okay.
There you go.
And I am a little bit concerned about the temperature of the water, so we're just going to go for a little bit longer than normal, just to sort of adjust our parameters. So.
I'm still definitely tasting this tea in my mouth. I'd say that it's becoming a little bit more, I think oaty and creamier. Not tasting much fruit, not tasting much of a roast.
Sort of those root vegetable tomato vine, as Denny described it, sort of lasts in the mouth. So if that sounds weird to you guys and you're not sure if you like it, it's hard to say.
Exactly, yeah. Can you get down with a sort of potato-y flavor with your tea? And the answer is maybe.
Like potato with like earthiness, like dirt almost.
Yeah. But sweet somehow, Again, these are teas that for people who have shot 220 episodes of TeaDB, we really love because, not to be complete elitist tea snobs, but we have had access to a lot of flavors and different teas that have been stored differently at different ages, different production, this is, it doesn't mean that just because we've had a lot of teas that we don't enjoy those flavor profiles at all, but it's just fun to be experiencing novel flavors and from different productions, and this is definitely quite
the
quite
color
nice.
is just beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something like crimson, dark crimson color. That's how you get your tea where all stained is what happens.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Cheers. So this is the 60 thing.
Indeed.
Yeah, tomato vine, pencil shavings,
Oaty.
oat, a kind of a saccharine sweetness that's maybe a little bit. I got like a nice velvety mouthfeel.
So soft, so smooth. Extremely easy for someone like me that enjoys this profile to drink.
I think it's got hints of that sort of vanilla sweetness that a younger ripe would have. But the vanilla-iness of those younger ripes can be a little bit overbearing. This is subtle and soft.
Right.
It's almost like vanilla bean as opposed to like a vanilla extract.
And one other note that I'll quickly add to this tea is that it's very much a product of the storage of this tea. This tea has probably undergone humid-ish storage and then had been stored in sort of like a drier environment for a while. If you were to store this tea for the equivalent amount of time in Seattle or in somewhere else in drier conditions, it would be totally different. So this is an example of a traditionally stored, probably in Hong Kong, raw pu'erh. I'm not even actually. You comment on how it's ripe or raw, and to be honest, I'm not totally positive. It could be ripe, it could be raw, it could be a ripe raw mix.
Yeah.
Sue might know. I might be an idiot. I don't know. But this tea is very much a product of the storage. If you were to store this tea dryly in an environment, it would be probably closer to its original form.
Exactly.
It would be a lot more vibrant. It wouldn't be as soft and sweet and as smooth as it is now.
Yeah.
So,
and it probably would be easier to tell where if it was a raw or ripe because it wouldn't have
it'd definitely be easier. Yeah. So I mean, so you can't just buy a tea that's 0 years old and wait for 30 years and it'll turn out like this. Not necessarily so. You'd have to store it in a very specific way.
Indeed. Well, this has been a treat. This is the kind of tea that's going to brew out forever. We just ran out of water.
Yeah, literally.
so we're probably going to end it here. But Sue, thank you so much for sending this our way. It's been really, really, really yummy to drink, of course. And for folks who do want to send more stuff in for us to give it a shot, thank you. We love that. Best place to do that is TeaDB@gmail.com. That's an email address for you people who somehow managed to get on the internet without knowing what email is.
Yeah.
And then where else, James, beyond just where they can sort of chat with us directly, where else would they go for tea?
Check us out on Instagram, on Twitter, on our website, tdb.org. On the website you can see the videos that we're releasing as well as article content. Some of that stuff doesn't get published onto the YouTube channel, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. And thank you guys for following. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And we will see you guys next time.